Hey, this is Joe from SoFly, and in this video, we are going to import WordPress users from a CSV using WP All Import. So to get started, we'll go down here to All Import and select New Import. And then we have three options. We're going to select Upload a File. And here's my file, users with job info. Then down here, we have the option to import into new items or existing items. Since these are new users, we're going to select New Items. And go down here and select users from the pull down. So we're going to create new users for each record in my file. So we'll continue to step 2. And here we go. So this is the first record. This is the first user that's going to be imported. Everything looks good. We'll continue to step 3. And now we'll drag over our information. So here on the left, this is the import template. This is where we set up our import file. And here on the right, this is the data from my CSV. You can see here, if I keep going to the right, record number 6, first name, last name. These are all the columns in my CSV. So all I have to do is click here and drag over. So there's my first name, there's my last name, the login. Now this is going to be, we can see here, a string that contains the user's username for logging in. So we'll just create the username for them, and it's just going to be their first name and their last name. And then our email address over here. Perfect. And then for the password. So what we can do is we can actually leave the password blank, and WordPress is going to generate a password for them. And then in the welcome email, the users are going to get a reset notification. So I don't have any password data here in my file. We're going to leave it blank. If I was migrating from a different WordPress site, we can actually import the hashed passwords. And that's a secure way to move the passwords from one WordPress site to another. But again, we're just going to leave this blank and go with the default, which is a randomly generated password that they can reset later. All right, then down here, we have other user information. So we have the user role. So if I had data over here from a user role, I can just drag that over. Or, I could just type in editor if I wanted all of these folks to be editors. In this case, I just want them all to be subscribers, and that's the default. So I'm going to leave that. The nickname. So the nickname, it defaults to the person's username. And this is just kind of, for example, my first name is Joseph. I could put Joe here for the nickname. We're going to leave this blank. And then the display name. Now, by default, the display name is just going to be the person's username. However, let's make it kind of nice. So we'll drag in the first name, and then we'll give it a space, and then we'll put in a last name. Just like that. For the description, I'm going to go ahead. Let's build something kind of nice here. So the description is just some information about the user, their biographical information. So over here, I have their job title and their company name. So I can drag over this, the job title and the company, right? For this person, they would be a speech pathologist at Kojidu. Perfect. And now the registered date. So this is the person's date, and the format we want is year, month, date. It looks just like that. So drag over the registered date and the nice name. Now the nice name is just the URL friendly name that the person uses, and this is used in the slug and stuff like that. We're going to leave this as the default, and it's just going to go up to their username, which is their login name, which is the first name and the last name together. And then we have the URL. So I have their LinkedIn URL. So I'll drag in my LinkedIn URL over there. And then any custom fields. Now, if you have any custom fields, if you have like a custom plugin that's adding custom fields, you'd add that information here. I don't have anything like that, so I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we're good to go. And then down here, we have the function editor. If we wanted to pass some of this data through a PHP function, we can do that over here. We have videos on our YouTube channel, and we have documentation at wpallimport.com that goes over how to use custom PHP functions with imports. We also have videos on passwords and migration, importing those on our YouTube channel and our documentation. So if either of those things are something you need to do, check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. Okay, so my import is set up. Now I'm going to continue to step 4, and we're good to go. So up here, we have our unique identifier. And what this is basically a way for WP All Import to tell that these two records and all these records here are different, right? So we could use the email address, whatever, to say, okay, so if somebody has the same email address, for example, if there was another person in this file with the same email address, WP All Import would know, okay, so this is actually the same person, right? And so it would update that record instead of creating a duplicate. Now we can also just auto detect it. So if the first name and the last name are the same, then they're the same person, right? And we can even make it a little bit better, and we can just drag over email. So if they have the same first name, last name, and email, they're the same. But if, they happen to have, let's say John Johnson at google.com, and then we also have John, like Jacob Johnson at a different company, if we didn't add that email in there, then they would be duplicates, right? But if somebody has the same email address and the first name and last name, they're unique. So usually you can just press auto detect and it'll kind of just magically pick something. In this case, I felt like adding email over to make it a little bit more unique. Then down here, we have some options. So when WPL import finds new or changed data, what should it do? And this has to do with when we rerun this import later, if we were to do so. So if I, for example, rerun this import with a new file, or if I'm running this import from a file, from a URL. So if this information is hosted somewhere else, and then I'm setting this import to run on a schedule. So like every Monday it imports all the new users. Well, what do I want to do? Do I only want to update the email address? Do I want to update everything? Do I not want to update stuff? If new users are added to that, the file when I run it later, do I want to create new ones? No. Yes. Do I want to update the existing ones if the data changed? Yes. In this case, it doesn't really matter because I'm only going to run this import once. But if you're interested in recurring imports, users or anything else, right? If you're running recurring WooCommerce product import, same set of settings over here. Again, check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. We have a lot of information on that. Also here about removing or modifying users not present in the file. So if we run the import later and the user is removed, do we want to delete that user from the site? That's all here. And actually we have a video that you can watch right here in the plugin that shows you a little bit more information about this feature. All right, so that's a recurring setting set up, unique identifier set up. The next option down here is email notifications for imported users. Now, this is pretty important, right? So I'm importing 8,000 users over here. Do I want to email them? Well, it's up to you, right? It just depends on what you're doing. So in this case, we're not setting up their password, right? So these users are going to have a default password and nobody knows what it is, not the person running the import and not the user whose account it is, right? So how are they going to log in? That's up to you to figure out. If you uncheck this, they get a welcome email from WordPress and they're just going to get a password reset URL so they can log in and then set up their password. Now you can also download a plugin from the WordPress.org plugin repository that lets you customize the welcome email, right? So you could configure that first and then uncheck block email notifications, and then they'll get that custom email from you. Or if you're going to do something else, just keep this checked, right? So, and then they're not going to get an email notification. Then you just need to figure out how you're going to let these people log into their new accounts. Or maybe they don't need to log in. Maybe you just want the users added to WordPress so you can use them for other things, right? So for the purposes of this import, obviously this is all fake data. I don't want to, if there happens to be, randomly a Brandy Borlinson at dabfeed.com, I don't want her to get an email. So we'll leave that checked. But this is a pretty important feature for you to figure out how you're going to use before you set up your import. And then moving right along, we have our scheduling options over here. If I needed to set up this import to run on a schedule, this would be the way to do it. So there's two options: manual scheduling, where you set up your import with cron jobs, and automatic scheduling, which is a service from us, $9 a month, where you point and click and set up your import schedule. In this case, we can't even use this feature because we're uploading a CSV file, right? It's not coming from a URL. So there's no real point in running it on a schedule if the file doesn't change automatically. So if we're going to use the scheduling feature here, what we would do is we would actually use a URL. So every time this import runs, it pulls the data from that URL and then updates the site. If you're interested in scheduling your imports, check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. We have a ton of videos on that. Then down here, we have our advanced settings. We're just going to leave these blank. If you're interested in any of these, we have tooltips, we have documentation, we have videos. They're all pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just leave those for now. All right, so that is our import all set up. And now we're going to continue. All right, so this is just a nice little confirmation. Our import summary over here. We're going to confirm and run the import. And this is a lot of users, so we'll let it run for a few minutes and we will come back when it's finished. All right, so our import was complete and all of those records were imported as new records. No duplicates were detected, nothing failed. All looks good. So let's go ahead and check out our fancy new user table over here. And there we go. there are all of our users that we've created with the username, their full name, the email, and check it out. All right, so user role is subscriber, first name, last name, nickname, display the public name as their first name and their last name, have their email here and their website, and the biographical information. He's an actuary at Yozio, and the profile picture is blank. This person does not have a Gravatar account on WordPress.org, and we're all good. Everything came in okay. So that is all it takes to import users from CSV using WP All Import. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.